And just like that, there's been a changing of the guard. Rich is out. Dave's in. I'm the new boss. It's only going to get better from here. We're cutting out the dead weight. Dave, welcome aboard.
Thanks. I don't. Rich ran away because he's just afraid for me to disagree with him on shit. So he's just taken right off.
Dave, that's unfortunately where you're wrong. Rich saw that this was an international OCR draft, and he's like, I've got to get out of here. So he decided to take a flight down to Austin, Texas, and he's hanging out with Nick Bear. Kind of a lame excuse, if you ask me.
Very. Yeah. I'm hung out to dry this week. Kirk's on vacation. Rich is out.
Dang.
I just feel very friendless.
You're the captain now, though.
Yeah, I'm very rejected, but also in charge. And I like that balance.
The default winner.
Jack, where are we kicking off today?
I'm thinking it's Trifecta World Championship weekend. That would be a great place to start. But I just mentioned it's a World Championship weekend. We just found out there's going to be another Spartan Race World Championship in 2025. How many are we going to have? I think it's something we need to talk about, because now that they're adding a Super World Championship, is it getting out of hand? Are they doing the right thing? What are your thoughts?
First of all, it's the best distance. So it's a good thing from that standpoint. It will be a compelling race. The sprint was a compelling race, and not everyone was there. Hopefully everyone shows up. But Jack, where do they put it?
Mammoth Lakes again. If you go on their website, it's not officially announced, but if you go to like
Mammoth,
if you go to mammothmountain.com or whatever their website is, and then /Spartan, guess what pops up? It says we're hosting the 2025 Super World Championship. So, spoiler alert, it's going back to the place that people have shown that it's very difficult to get to, and attendance probably won't be as high as OCR Worlds, because like, what's it going to be? It's going to be a Spartan race, not a little bit more challenging obstacles that you'd see at OCR Worlds. That was kind of like the carrot dangling from the stick, like trying to get you out there. Now it's just another regular old Spartan race at a tough venue.
When it's a great venue, it's just terrible to get there. I mean, unlike most podcast people, I actually listen to other people's podcasts. So I go back and I listen to some of your guys' things. We were talking about this, and the venue was tragic. It was not the death of OCRWC, but it definitively was a massive marker in the decline in attendance. I knew the Super Championship was coming. I did not realize it was going to Mammoth Lakes, and that is a shot. The other thing that I listened back to you guys talked about is you mentioned it here. There's so many World Championships. There is, but they also are all at very different distances. So, I mean, that's like if I went to track and field and I said that, well, there's so many World Championships because there's a 100, there's a 200, there's a 400, there's an 800, there's a 1 mile. They're different distances. So I think it's okay to have that many championships. I'm not sure it's okay to spread them out in different places, different dates, and destroy the calendar, like bog down the calendar with nothing else. Oh, man. Again.
Yeah, that's kind of a good point with the spreading it out across the calendar, because the Olympics or U.S. Track and Field Championship, whatever it is, it's always on the same event weekend. You're not like, okay, we're going to have our 100-meter champion, except for the marathon. That one's held earlier in the year just because of the recovery aspects that go into that. But every other track and field event is like, here is the weekend we are going to decide the winner. It's not the same. And it would just favor people who have better endurance and recover ability if you had them all in the same weekend here.
No, that's a terrible idea. We already have the trifecta for that. It's a bad argument only because they don't all compete in the same event in track.
Yeah.
You don't do the 100 and the 200 and the 800 and the 5K. So, yeah, you can put them all on the same weekend. If you put all these events on the same weekend, it's the same as hosting an ultra championship or a beast championship. Those people will win because it negates the speed factor of the other races. So I'm actually against you on this, Jack.
Okay. Well, I was going to say, I think I misspoke there, but you just said if you hold them on the same weekend, isn't that already the Trifecta World Championship?
Yeah, we already have it.
So we're determining a Super World Champion in October at Mammoth Lakes. And then a month later, you have the super distance at the Trifecta World Championship, where another Super World Champion is crowned. You know,
they don't crown them.
Yeah, but the super there, like the Trifecta is one race effectively.
I know.
Yeah. It's one race spread over three heats, right? Or 3 heats. It's like heat racing.
Cumulative.
So you have one race winner. It's like winning. If you win the super there, it's like winning the 2nd kilometer of a 3K race. You know, it's Yeah, it's not the same. So I don't know. I like a lot of championships, but I do think they could condense it, sort of thing. I think when Bracken touches upon you could track and field, the same people aren't running the 1 and the 8 and all that stuff. So it is different that way. But then that raises the question of, do we need all these different distances for championships? Or is like picking one a year the way they did before, is that the way to go? Or do you just meet in the middle and do the super? Because then you're going to get your sprint and the sprint, the super, the beast. You usually are getting the same people at the top anyway.
We don't need these all, but we don't need OCR. It's already a superfluous activity. But as long as we have it, let's give athletes the most possible chances to compete at a high level. Like, is it a world championship? Was Spartan ever the world championship? Probably for a few years it was. I think the world championship in OCR is just whatever race draws the most world ranked racers.
I think until it moved to Ohio, or I think Ohio, you would have had a toss up between was it Spartan or was it OCR Worlds the first couple of years. But once it moved to Canada, it was like that is the first time that you had an event in OCR kind of draw more of the best of the sport to it. And that would probably be the world championship for the first time that year in 2016.
So I don't care what they call it. I think it's Hunter's ranted about this before. Like, everyone's a world champion. And then, there is also the same sort of people just claim 8 championships. But I don't care that they're putting on more, because the title doesn't really mean anything. Is it the world champion? I don't care. It's a chance for as many good people to show up as possible. And because our North American series, National Series, Pan American Series, whatever they want to call it each year, has dropped in attendance in terms of the best all showing up to compete each week like it used to be, I'll just take as many chances to have a version of that as possible. So even if the Super World Championship is really just an almost as good version of any of the series stops of what they used to be, that's a win for the sport in my eyes.
Or is it a delusion of the field? Because all these championships pull from each other and butcher each other. And then that way you're not having that one go-to, everybody's got to go because this is the real championships, because you have so many. So it becomes...
But we already don't have that.
Yeah. Is this going to make it worse?
I think this makes it
another step in that direction.
This doesn't dilute the world championship field because it's already diluted. I think it raises the national series caliber up a notch. Now, if we had a standalone event that it cannibalized, that would be bad. But where it's located in the season, where it's located distance and location wise, I don't think it's going to take away from Abu Dhabi or West Virginia or World's Toughest, because those have already been taken away from. The people who are going to go are going to go. I just look at it as this is an advanced race. This is a bigger field race, which is a positive. Is it a world championship? Do we need a sprint, super, and beast world champion and ultra and 24?
And trifecta?
Well, if they pay, yes, we need them all. I'll take them all.
Couple of points right there. So how much do you think athletes' legacies would have changed had in the past the multiple distances been offered? Because it was always, are you the best mountain runner? Are you the best, altitude mountain runner? Some athletes who could have been some of the, all-time greats, instead of finishing 6th through 8th, might have been on multiple podiums over the years. Bracken, I'm sure, honestly, you during your heyday, you would have loved having a chance at a Super World Championship that wasn't at Killington. Even though you did well the early years, you might have been able to stretch out a couple more years at the top doing it that way. Hunter may have had his Spartan Race World Championship had it been a super, a sprint, some shorter type of non-mountain distance. And I think that absolutely would have affected some athletes' legacies.
Well, I guess I'll answer that with a question. How many super championships have there been in the past?
First year, 2011, or the first world championship in Texas, and then Spartan, where Sergey and Lindsay ended up winning.
And there's also a U.S. national super championship one year.
Illinois or something?
Yeah. And who won it?
Hunter.
Me. You? Nobody knows. Nobody remembers. It didn't affect my legacy. So my point is this, not to toot my own horn. It is that Spartan racers in community have always decided what championship races have any meaning towards legacy. And super distances never factored into that. 3K really didn't factor into that much. As much as I proved that VJ is the best short course racer in the world, it's not going to factor into his Mount Rushmore status, even though on paper it should. So I just don't think that even if they held it all these years, people would have embraced it. They embraced the epic scale of the beast, and you had to be so great at so many things that affected legacy. They've had these things. No one's talking of Sergey for GOAT status, or even Mount Rushmore when he has some claim to be nipping at least the foothills of Mount Rushmore, because people don't care about that distance. So I don't think this will change anything.
I don't think distance or terrain or any of that really has to do, is going to affect the legacy so much as competition. It's who's there that affects the legacy. It's who you beat. Like if you go out and win whatever distance and whatever terrain and the right people aren't there, you're not going to get the clout for it.
Correct.
But if you go out, you go out and do a 3K and all the big names are there, you're going to get the prestige. You do a beast and all the big names, you're going to get the prestige, not matter distance or terrain. It's who's who.
Yeah,
I think that's true. However, if they ran a sprint, super, and beast world championship next year and 100% turnout occurred at all three, what's going to be most prestigious and what's going to be least?
Yeah, that's a tough one.
It'll be the beast will be most.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, I know in my eyes, but most people go to longer is more.
Yeah. And so I guess the question is good, Jack. It's valid, but I don't think it would have affected legacy because I don't think people would have put stock in it.
I got you. And we're talking about how head to head, who shows up, that's the biggest deal. If we look at a map, you have basically touching the Pacific Ocean, like California for the Super World Championship. Recording error. Do you see that, Bragan?
What do we have going on?
Oh no.
Nope, I have none. No recording error on my end.
All right, just make it just popped up on mine. But anyway, we have West Coast for California for the Super. We have Croatia for the Sprint. We have Abu Dhabi for the Beast, Morzine for Ultra World Championship. So you've got 4 international like no one is at an advantage. It's not like you have every single person in the US can be like, well, I'm just going to fly from one coast to the other a few times. Like historically, we've held the big races here. You've got it spread out. You're not going to get everybody to commit to all these world championships. So that automatically dilutes it.
True. But we've had Tahoe drawing the very best racers in the world outside of each year that Tahoe was in existence for a world championship. There'd always be like 1 to 3 people that you could make an argument really need to be here from Europe. That's very, very good. If you have it singled down to single digit athletes under 5, usually that I really wish so-and-so were here, that would round out this field. So we've seen that people will do it, but will they do it for a Super in Mammoth? Will that draw it in? They didn't for OCR Worlds.
I think if it wasn't Mammoth, I think more people would. That's the biggest drawback, in my opinion, like venue fatigue and difficulty getting there.
Does it come down to prize money? Does it come down to how much cash is that?
True.
Cash is prestige. If you win $100,000 race, even against people who maybe aren't the top of the league, you still won that race. If you win a $500 race against great people, it doesn't have the prestige. So cash builds prestige.
It does. And one begets the other. We saw what Tough Mudder did. As soon as they announced the prize money, you had like 30 athletes all post their pre-recorded videos of, I am Lindsay Webster and I am committing to Tough Mudder Alula. I'm Ryan Atkins and I will be going. I'm John Albin. I'll be going. And suddenly everyone wanted to be there. Yeah. And so to get those few to show up, you need the money. And then they get the next level to show up because the Europeans want to race the best Americans because they want to prove they're better. And the Americans probably don't want to race them. But in the US, they'd race them.
Lately.
Yeah. In the US, we'd race them. Yeah. So I don't know. I don't think it's going to have huge buy-in, but I like that they're having it. I just don't like where they're having it. Because it's the worst, not the worst, but it's not a good place from a race perspective, let alone travel. The super distance is great because it's the meeting ground of the short, fast people and the long endurance monsters. And it's a great distance because you can get a little bit of everything terrain-wise. And the beast, you can make it epic scale. And in the sprint, you have to kind of stick to one thing and one thing only because the race is over. But the super can be the meeting ground. Mammoth is not a meeting ground. Mammoth is high, pointy end of the spectrum. It is high altitude. There is one terrain type, and it's epic in scale. But in a 90-minute race, it doesn't get quite epic enough. But it's epic enough that it ruins the speed of the race for a 60-minute race, which a super can be. So to me, it's the worst type of location for the duration or the distance that they're trying to put on. So that's my negative. As much of travel, it's the type of course they chose for the type of race they can put on.
When we saw a 3K OCR World Championship about a month ago, and athletes are power hiking within the first 4 minutes of a 3K, like you already know what type of course this is. Like it's one skill set at that point. And I do agree with the whole, I love the distance, don't love the venue necessarily, because a super, it can be 45 minutes if you have San Luis Obispo. It can be 80 minutes if you have Big Bear. Like they can make it however long they want, depending on the elevation and the options that they have there. It's just this venue, you know what it's going to be. It's going to be on the long end. You might have some beasts that are quicker than some of the supers that you'd be able to run at this terrain. Like that's not, I don't know, that's not really a super world championship when it's so obvious what the skill set's going to be.
So you got to go into the question of why. Why would it be Mammoth? And is it possible? And I mean, like I said, just hearing about this, so I'm rolling through ideas in my head. Is it possible that this is a fulfillment of a contractual obligation to have another race in Mammoth? So when you moved OCRWC out, you had to fill the void with something else. So possibly maybe Spartan was obligated to put some sort of championship race on there. Ergo, they were planning to have a super championship. We fill it into this slot for this year.
And it had to have like a title with some prestige next to it, you're saying?
Yeah, world championship race, right? They've removed a world championship race. We need to put one in its place.
I can't argue with that. A great use of ergo.
Thank you. Thank you.
That makes sense, right? They can charge a higher premium from the town if it has a title on it. So I get that. I really do. But high altitude is meant for grinding.
Yeah.
This is what? 8 miles, probably.
It's supposed to be a 10K.
Distance wise, it'll be an 8-mile race, but it should be a 10K, which is a long middle distance race.
Yeah.
Altitude kills speed. So you save the grindy distance for the grindy duration and in course. So I'd almost rather see Trifecta there, which I don't want to see there, but like something that's going to be long and a beat down anyway. If I think a super, I want to see Basilico and Hawk Call and VJ flying. You're not going to see flying at Mammoth. Downhill, yes. Uphill, no. There's a lot of uphill there.
And we just saw OCR World. So Eugenio Godinez Romero, he was an hour 41 for essentially a 9-mile race for the 15K. So take off a couple miles of that. You're looking at like an hour 20 plus. It's going to be a long day.
It's a long
bigger carries.
Yeah. Yep. I'd hope so.
So good for the athletes. Anything that's good for the athletes, I'm on board with. Spartan seems to be paying quicker. That's good for the athletes. So yeah, you can start putting on, I give my blessing, not that they care or ask for it, but I give my blessing to start putting on prize money announcements again, because you seem to be paying people, or at least the athletes seem to be getting paid. So great. This is good for the athletes. We'll take it.
And so they just announced that Seattle was going to be the North American Regional Championship again in 2025. A lot of athlete complaints about safety, all the thorn bushes and stuff. Do you think, should they switch it up to kind of be more of a typical course, or are they just kind of, that's going to be what Seattle's known for now, as opposed to some of the old fun runnable courses that it was known for?
As a resident complainer on a podcast that complains a lot, I'm even going to call out complaining on this, because we can't have it both ways. We can't pine for Spartan of old and then complain when we get Spartan of old. You got to have one or the other. Part of bushwhacking is getting scratched by said bushes. So if you are against that kind of thing, then you have to be good with present day Spartan. And if you're for that kind of thing, then you also have to be for it when it's your legs that get scratched. So while people do have valid complaints, we're never going to
wear pants next sides. Just wear pants.
I like that one. Wear pants.
That's what it comes down to.
I mean, Atkins raced in tights in Lindsay for years for that very reason.
Worked out. If you had to host the Spartan Super World Championship at any venue, sounds like we're not in agreement that Mammoth is the best one. Where are you going to host it? Because the U.S. currently, that is the only World Championship event on its calendar for 2025. 2 in Europe, 1 in the Middle East. So where would you host it? Would you even keep it in the U.S.? Would you just do all Europe this year? Like,
If it's US, the best super course I've ever run in my life was Asheville, the old Asheville course. Assuming infrastructure gets back in, it'd be a nice influx of cash into that region as well. But I believe it has to be East Coast. I do not think we should be putting on non-epic scale world championships anywhere but East Coast, because we need to get Europeans there. West Virginia would be the second choice, but they already have Trifecta, so
yeah,
I don't think they need it.
Yep. Dave, how about up in Canada? Any good venues that people might not in the US?
I mean, there's always Tremblant. Like Tremblant is a great venue. It's an amazing place. You've got you're just over an hour from Montreal Airport, so it's not bad to get to. You've got tons of lodging. It's beautiful, and you have the most dense OCR community in Canada in that area. So it would feed into the venue. So yeah, for me right now, if you put any OCR in Canada, it's got to go to Mount Tremblant or Blue Mountain if you want it to be epic. Those are the places to be.
Yeah, I think accessibility, East Coast, just to draw the athletes, that's absolutely the way to go. I've never been to Palmerton. Like, if they're fixed on putting it on a mountain, obviously that has a legendary reputation.
Yeah,
seems like it'd be a good choice. But
Palmerton's epic, but it's too unrunnable for a super.
How about New Jersey?
New Jersey's borderline. I think Blue Mountain's better, because you can make runnable climbs out of almost all of that if you want to. And you've got the full ridge running at top, which is filmable. Palmerton has ridge running, but it's really hard to get eyes up there. And New Jersey's runnable is on the backside, which is going to be very hard. And since we keep just harping on the fact that production values are what is going to make this sport succeed or not in terms of the pro level, I think you need a venue you can film. And both Blue Mountain and Asheville have proven they've had good broadcasts there.
Yeah, like Blue Mountain's got great signal for that area.
We both rabbited there, Dave. That was
and Bracken
fantastic. Bracken was on coverage with Kirk. Like, I think that was one of the best OCR report broadcasts that there ever was. Like, I think it's absolutely filmable. You have it's been proven since 2015. A lot of athletes had either been there for OCR Worlds or went there in 2022 for the national series. I think you'd have a lot of buy-in, even though it is Canada. Like, that's I actually do agree that might be the best venue on the East Coast.
And you guys didn't get to see it this year, but this year they had a lot of, I would say probably the last kilometer or so, maybe even a bit more, was run through the village. So you actually had more spectators at the obstacle. It was more like OCRWC back in 2016-17, where you actually had people out watching and being there, just all being part of the crowd. It was a lot more of a better vibe than the recent Blue Mountain ones, where they weren't able to go to the village.
Yeah.
So Jack, I will backtrack one though. You asked about Palmerton in New Jersey. I said maybe too steep for a super. Since the World Championship beast is no longer steep, why not? Why not give Palmerton or New Jersey or Blue Mountain that kind of thing? Because we still do need to test mountain running.
Yeah.
I just don't want it all tests of mountain running.
Isn't it so strange now, the Sprint World Championship, it's like who's really good at swimming. In the Beast World Championship, who can run on sand, who can run at elevate. Like, there's no normal tests anymore. It's baffling.
Sprint wasn't who's good at swimming. It's who's good at pulling on a rope.
Okay, yeah. And
which is in and of itself. You saw the people who have done it in races before.
Yeah.
Jack, have you had to do that in races ever? Or been able to?
Polar, yeah. Like, I think I did the Miami Battle Frog one year, and like we had some water crossings, but it's fatiguing, honestly.
It's fatiguing, but there's also a fast technique to it that if you've done it, you realize this is way better than swimming in terms of speed, and it changes the race dynamics.
It's like Tyrolean traverse. It's like there's a fast way and there's a safe way to do it.
Yeah.
It does make, though, like we saw with Nicole, difficulty for passing. It becomes a one-lane swim then. So you're in first, you're kind of blocking the lane unless you're really slow. And then you kind of take away from that. So I don't know. I don't know if I'm sold on the.
You can make a bursty pass if you're a strong swimmer. You can get up, do a hard pull, and make like 6 hard front crawl strokes and get around. But if someone wants to be a jerk, they could really block.
I mean, this is like you've been watching NASCAR. This is a 1-lane course, man. You got to get out there. You're just going to essentially cut someone off and clip them with your knees as you're coming back on that rope.
Yeah.
You have to get more than a full body length ahead, because like you're gonna like slow down briefly to grab the rope, and then you're gonna be like kicking the person behind you. It's
not
hard
ideal
to make a pass at that point.
If it's going to be rope based, then it's like any other obstacle. Yeah. You have to have multiple lanes now. And
or so do you make it so that you can't use that rope at all? So it is actually a swim.
I would say yeah, but then that brings back to the issues of swimming during an endurance competition and the safety and how hard it is to appropriately keep an eye and safety on everyone. I think it's OCR's roots are in water. Tough Guy has a lot of water.
Yeah.
Spartan Killington, Spartan Glenrose, the first world championship, multiple swims. A lot of the national series used to have water on board. You'd at least go waist deep, if not crossing creeks, creek running, swimming.
Asheville had those big ones. Yeah.
Yeah. Savage Race. Maybe Savage didn't have it. Savage had some. Battle Frog always had water. I think our roots are steeped in water in OCR. That's it's one of the most fatiguing things you can do to your body. And OCR is about fatiguing your body and then seeing what other sort of fitness you can pull out. So I love the idea of having water in races. And so coming up with in the current climate of sports, how do we include water in a way that makes sense to have water? Because I don't know if rope pulling on one lane is the sensical way to do it.
We saw back in the day, I don't know if you were at the race, but wasn't the first time that Hobie Call really got beat in a notable field was at a superhero scramble with a bunch of water. Like, it is such a difference maker. It's a skill set. It's like Rich Froning didn't know how to climb a rope one year at the CrossFit Games. It's like, hey, you know what's coming next year. You better get good at this skill set. It's a weakness. So everybody's got a year to improve on that because it's in Croatia again, from what I've heard. And it's next to the water, so you're going to be swimming.
I forget, did the Race Brain Cloverleaf course have water in it? I don't remember that being in there.
I would put water on every OCR course I could ever design if I had my way. It wouldn't all have to be swimming. I think creek running is phenomenal. I think running through the shallows is demoralizing and exhausting. I think water is a really good test of grit and endurance. It exposes fitness so quickly. You don't have to be in it for long.
Yeah. 4 feet deep water. You can swim it, you can run it, you can do whatever.
Choose your path.
Palmerton, how they had their buoy dive under you'd have to do. And on low years, you could walk the whole thing if you wanted to. It might be up to your collarbone. But if you swam it and had the fitness to do that, it was a significant advantage to swim it, but it was going to cost you energy. I think even that kind of thing is a great meeting ground, which means you can follow the coast in Croatia rather than, I don't know. There are ways around it, but I think you have to be creative now because you can't just do the old school thing, which is send people out into the water. Say it's life jacket optional. Do what you want to do. We got one kayak here.
Doesn't work anymore.
No. Times they have changed.
Mm-hmm. Yep. All right. Time to move on to the other world championship that's actually happening this upcoming weekend.
Yep.
And do you consider Trifecta World Championship a world championship? Or is it's just kind of like that's just what they started calling it a while ago, so it's stuck around? Like, what do you guys consider?
I think it is. I think it should be. It is, in my mind, like Spartan. You do your super, your sprint, your beast. It's all in one thing. I like it. I think it's an interesting format. I think that there has become a great deal of prestige with it, just from having it in Greece and the history of it now. I think it's a legit world championship. And I know this, like Europeans especially, have looked like it's been marked on their calendar for years.
Circled, yep.
Yeah, I think legitimately, yes. Yeah, world championship.
It is a championship, yes. I never know what to call one-off events. Because yes, trifectas are part of our sport, but they're not Friday, Saturday, Sunday events. They're 2-day events. So this is a test of something you never get to do, like a Warrior Dash World Championship or the world's toughest. It's absolutely a championship, but like it's a one-off event. So I never know what to include them as, but in terms of prestige, I never gave this much credence, but as Spartan World Championship started to drop off in importance, this seemed to rise in importance to me, to the point where now I think it might be the most prestigious OCR event to win outside of maybe World's Toughest. I think those are the two hardest things to win currently.
Yeah, I think it's on par with regional championships. like a Seattle in years past. This year wasn't as deep, but it still has some pretty notable names at the front. But in like a deeper North American championship level year or European championship year, that's about where Trifecta
these days.
Yeah, but you're talking this year, like now, right now. To me, right now, it's hard to list a race like Brock said that is more prestigious and it's more of a championship.
What does the video show? It shows Basilico, Heineck, Pereligan. That's world championships. It shows
Nicole, Susanna, Esther. Yeah.
That's world championships. I mean, in terms of our fields right now, what's better than that? Only Alula.
Yeah, Croatia was pretty dang deep, but
Croatia was honestly a shock to me in there. It's a good thing they put in Europe because Europe is deeper than the US right now.
They hit a home run with that thing. They did really well with Croatia.
Yeah. Yep.
And although I'm on the minority, I even like the 100 meter.
Yeah. I think that would a better way to classify it be like the stage racing world championship? Because I would argue that half to 2/3 of race weekends these days are trifecta weekends. Most of the time, the sprint only has an open heat available, but you look at the US calendar and European calendar, and very often you have a beast on day one and then a super in the morning on Sunday and then a sprint around noon or so on Sunday as well. So it's super common, and like allowing athletes, a lot of people do, they chase their trifectas, not necessarily on the elite side, but allowing there to be a world championship for that style of racing or in that format that's around most weekends these days. It does make sense to have something like that. Just the title world championship is a little too much in my opinion.
So is the problem the lack of feeder system?
I don't know, because I consider World's Toughest to be the most prestigious ultra event, and there's a feeder system, I suppose, but it's not 24 hours.
Yeah.
That first year, Warrior Dash was absolutely a world championship. It had a feeder system.
They just said you have to get top 10 at a Warrior Dash, or you can be invited. Like it was just a free for all. If you want to show up and you're good, you're going to get in the field.
Do you think WTM will be that prestigious this year, though?
I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know the field
I'm
yet.
Giving them the benefit of what they've done every year leading up. And anyway, like I said, I don't know what to consider one-off events.
Yeah.
Like TMX to me was not a world championship of anything.
No, but it was.
Awesome. It was a championship, but not a world. You're not a world championship a world champion if you win TMX. I now consider you a world champion. Well,
really?
But he's not the best in the world. It was only US people.
No, we had one guy from the UK.
There was a Canadian, I suppose.
Yeah, we had a Canadian guy.
That's like the Texas World Championship. It was like, oh, there was one athlete from Mexico. Like technically, we had a world championship because more than one country was there.
The way I look at it is, if some other country did this and announced it as a world championship, would Americans accept it? That tells me whether it's a world championship or not. So if, let's say, Italy had hosted TMX and it was all Italians and one UK guy, would we crown him the world championship as Americans?
That's a strong argument right there.
Right. So we can't do that either.
No.
That's why TMX doesn't count. Trifecta World Championship, I think, we'd accept it. We did it in Greece for years.
Yeah.
World's Toughest, I think we would count it.
And that's going to the UK next year. So
yeah,
that'll be interesting.
Like all OCR, it'll do well there.
Yeah.
But if we hold the world to our standards of what a championship is, we would lose a lot of world championships.
Absolutely. I agree. Yeah. All right. Time for Trifecta Worlds.
Yeah.
Trifecta Championship. Bracken.
Right. Do I need to let you do anything here?
I was going to let you do the wheel of names while I just pull up the sheet.
Oh, I have to do something?
Yeah.
Leadership comes with responsibilities.
I don't want it.
Wheel of names is like an honor from what I heard.
Where is it? All right. What do we do here? I have to present, share my screen, wheel of names.
Look at that. He just had to talk.
Yeah, I love this. This is fantastic. Like, I love my odds of picking where I want.
There you go.
Are we ready?
Born ready.
Really could be some dramatic music.
Yeah, that's probably our next step from our Patreon.
Come on. Oh, yeah.
You know, it gives me great pleasure to watch Jack blow it with the first
You
pick.
love when I get choice because you're like, then I'll screw it up. Let's go third.
Third.
Yeah.
If the world's fair, Dave will get this.
World is fair.
There you go.
Fair.
All right. I'll take the first one.
Ooh.
The ceremonial second slot spin. I'll take it.
BK. There we go.
All right.
Check it out on YouTube if you want to watch the drama.
And you do.
Yep. All right.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna share.
Take us away, Jack.
I've seen that many times. It's just being a part of it. It was chills. It was like driving an exotic sports car. It was just crazy.
Is it like world class production right there, Dave?
It is.
It's more visceral than it is visual.
Yes.
Dave got to feel it today.
Yeah.
All right,
like
you guys see the
tactile almost.
Yeah. You guys see the screen?
Yep.
All the athletes on we have 2 columns men, 2 columns women. Dave, you are up first.
All right. Well, I'm going with one of the GOATs, one of the all-time best, Nicole Miracle. Recent guest on my show. So, I mean, obviously she is a big deal. But just, she's been racing incredibly well lately. OCR, WC, FISO, everywhere she's gone, she's been solid. I think, again, she just looks in great shape. She's ready to go. So I think no reason why Nicole won't take first.
I mean, she's won Trifecta World Championship before. Yep. I think she stayed over there after Croatia. So travel's not really going to be too big of a deal. And it's hard to argue against her as the woman to beat right now.
Her performance in Croatia, I mean, she won going away after missing her spear throw and having to come back. I mean, she just looks so solid. So Nicole all the way.
And I don't want to denigrate this field, but there's really only one person here who on paper can present even like a hint of a challenge to her.
Yeah.
The women who have given her trouble in the past, and by trouble I mean competed with her, are not here other than Zuzana. So I think she is absolutely the first pick here.
And that's good because I'm going to get worse from this point out.
Yeah. So
Dave, you have the honor. I think Chris Rogloski is the only other person who has drafted.
No,
Lauren Smith.
Well, yep. that's High Rocks OCR.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I really don't like this position that I'm in now.
That's why I picked 3. Yeah.
But Jack is about to get a really good back-to-back pick here.
Yeah.
Because you either choose the someone who you think can win the men's, or you choose the only other lights out pick on the women's field. And either way, Jack could take 2 podium people right here.
I'm getting 2 studs back to back.
Yeah.
Go screw it up, Bracken. Come on.
I'm gonna have to take Zuzana.
I'm surprised.
I don't think I shouldn't say I don't think she can win. I don't think she will win. But outside of injury, it would be an incredible upset if she takes any worse than second.
I agree. Yeah.
And I can't give Jack that opportunity. So that's it. I mean, I want to take Basilico, but
I know.
Yeah. Zuzana has to be picked here.
Are you possibly having a worse hand or wrecking your hand to make his hand worse? Which is always a mistake.
Of course.
Yeah. And yet you never know with this woman. She could win this thing.
She could. She's probably the only other woman in the field you can say that about.
She is the only other woman in the field.
Yeah. And Zuzana has won Trifecta World Championship before also. So yes, she's older than when she did it, but she got out of the water at the same time. All it takes is a missed spear throw from Nicole, and Zuzana can easily be right there with her. So
she looked great in Croatia. She looked awesome.
Yeah. Now I'm very surprised. Esther she wasn't on the start list that I was given. That would be the only other athlete on this type of terrain who I think could really give Nicole or Zuzana a real run for the win. So this is going to be far different than recent years. All right. Well, thanks, Bracken. I'm unfortunately have to take Gregory Basilico.
Yep.
He's won Trifecta himself. So we have the top 3 picks overall have been former winners of this event. How much is he going to win by? That's the real question. Like, unless you've got some rain or something, that's the only time we're really seeing him struggle at this type of course. He's going to run away with this thing.
He should.
Yeah.
He really should. The only question is weather, right?
Mm-hmm.
Can it be nasty enough that he falls off enough things that people stay in range? Yeah. Penalty loops here are generally pretty gnarly. I should say that the carry loops are. So the penalties, hopefully this year, are very gnarly.
Well, I am looking at the weather forecast, and it looks like mid 70s for the high, right around 50 for the low, sunny. One day as partly cloudy. Like there's going to be no weather unless you have a real change.
Like perfect running conditions.
If history repeats itself, it's going to rain the entire beast.
Yeah, so true. Yeah,
which it should.
Yeah, I mean, Gregory, his Achilles heel has been, can he hit his spear throw? That's cost him world championship title at the beast distance in Abu Dhabi. He's fallen off, I think, Twister at Trifecta Worlds when it was wet. Yeah, it's just execution on some of these obstacles, because he should win by a good margin. But,
and you're looking at not just 1 spear, but likely 3 at the minimum.
Mm-hmm. Yep. All right. I'm going to continue the trend of just taking people who've won this event before. Richard Heineck, he had surgery earlier this year on his heel, or he had some bone spur removed right there, and that was in like April or March. So it's only had about a half-year recovery, but he looked so good. He was in 3rd place, fell off the top of Stairway to Sparta, feet from the finish line, crashed through, broke the wood support ladder on the backside of it, and then ended up losing a sprint finish for 4th in Croatia a couple weeks ago. And he's run Trifecta weekend already this year. Maybe about a month ago, he ran the Beast Super Sprint in the same weekend as at a local race, won by a good margin against several people in this field. So I'm feeling good about his odds of making the podium again.
You never know which Heineck you're getting. Regular Heineck or something's going on Heineck. And if he's regular Heineck, your team is disgusting.
But the thing is, he's going to get sick like the week before, just like when Rich drafted him. He's not going to show up like when I draft. Like something likely will happen involving this man, but he's too good not to put him or to take him in this spot.
Well, I'm going to go along with that. I'm going to take Rylan. Rylan is too good. And my hope is that his ongoing breathing respiratory issue cancels out his only weakness as an athlete, which is he's so tough and aggressive that sometimes he comes up a little short because he can thrash himself into pure destruction. And we saw in the Beast at the end of the last Trifecta World Championship, he just didn't have an answer at the end. He was a monster all weekend, but he just came up a little short. Maybe he's going to have a rev limiter and be able to throw attacks later into the Beast this year, because he was attacking early in the Beast.
It seemed to work, that strategy in Seattle, where he didn't go out. It was at the beginning when everybody sprinted off the line. Basically, we saw Rylan in like 15th place, and that, I know it's 30 seconds in, but Rylan usually is leading or right up there, right? That's his style. So maybe this rev limiter might actually be a blessing in disguise.
And he's so good. He's so talented. He is just so well-rounded that I have to take him right now.
And he booked this flight after doing Amsterdam, which was what, 2 weeks ago. So you don't buy an international flight on a couple's week notice if you're not feeling good. And he's run this venue twice, I believe, 2023 and 2022. He's podium both years, so he knows exactly what it's like. Feeling fit again. I think he's definitely worth the risk right now, despite the breathing issues.
You are right that you had to take him now, because I would have taken him if you didn't. 100%.
He's not coming back around.
No, there is no way. He would not have got back around. So you've completely destroyed my strategy. So I'm going off the wall here. That's it. I'm on tilt. I'm going to go with, what I'm going to do is I'm going to round out my women's field and be done there. be a different thing. So we're going to go with, Klara Lakajovic, Kovanov.
Lukachikova.
Yeah, there you go. And we're going to go with Lisa Musacchio.
See, I was thinking of doing this for my next 2 picks. I was like, maybe I'll just take all the women off the board. I didn't think that it would happen this soon. And I'm not mad that I have my guys, but there's so much more volatility in the men's field.
It wasn't part of my plan. I really thought that Shadeg would make it to me, and it did not happen. So, but yeah, I mean, Lisa, we've seen what she's done throughout the state. She's been very consistent. She's constantly been climbing up the ladder. She's been really good. And Klara, I believe, was just 3rd over in Croatia. And
she's beaten Zuzana before multiple times at local races.
Yeah, and in a field like this, I just thought that by the time it came back around to me again, it was going to be awful hard to get a solid female pick in there. So
Jack and I were going to take them. So
I had to jump on it.
Yeah.
Very good picks. Do I reach yet? Because Jack worries me with who I'm looking for.
Also, real quick, just back to Lisa. You only have Nicole going from the U.S. besides Lisa.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pumped that she's kind of the other U.S. representative this time.
And have you had a chance to speak with Lisa very much? Like, she is just an incredible person.
Times,
She's just fantastic. Like,
and I think she's
a sport.
Yeah, I think she's a teacher, so that's kind of cool that she's able to pull this off in the middle of the school year.
Well, maybe she's not a very good teacher.
Nick Riker's the teacher, right?
There you go.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Decisions bracket. Your team's looking nasty so far. Can you continue the trend?
I'm really, really torn on a lot of people. So I am going to go with Luca Piscolderong.
Damn it. That was gonna
He's
be the
not coming
next
back
guy.
to me again.
No.
We've seen how good he has become at this sport. And if we get the full health strength version of him, I don't see any reason he's not pushing right up there with Ryland all weekend long.
Yeah. He won the Ultra Championship this year, did he not?
In Morzine, yeah.
Yeah.
And he was 4th. He was the, you had the goats up there at the front for the podium for Alula, and Luca was 4th. Just missed out.
Yeah.
It's a good pick. I know he was dealing with some health issues. Maybe he had like a stress fracture, sacrum, something like that. Does that sound familiar?
Is something bone related in the hip girdle area. I don't remember exactly what it was, but you don't know what you're getting right now. I don't, at least. But he's like Gregory. I mean, he's like Richard. If he's close to himself, he's a monster.
Yeah.
Bracken is playing with the medical field here.
Yes.
Yeah.
When I do themes, it backfires. So
right now, Bracken's theme, you've got to have 2 G's at the end of your name, because you went Ryland Shepard and Luca Piscolderong right there. So anyone else available? Probably not. No, you've got your team. Okay. I'm going to go last year's 3rd place woman, Jessica Velasco Ruiz. So she's the podium returner from last year. You didn't have Nicole, but you did have Esther. So those two essentially swap, both capable of winning the title. Zuzana's in there, but yeah, I think Jessica's got a good chance of repeating herself. She's always a strong racer in Europe, and 2 individual 3rds last year, and then the overall cumulative time finishing in 3rd. That's a great resume for this race. And then my next pick, Andrea Burquez got 2nd place at European Championship, and she broke Esther. She was running with Zuzana. She's really fit right now.
Bracken's in a bad spot now.
I can't see his face right now because I've got the full screen.
Oh yeah, he's not happy. He's not happy.
Were you picking both of them?
It's what happens, right?
Yeah.
You have to make a decision and live with the consequences.
Yeah.
I took Ryland, lost the next 2 women. Took Luca, lost the next 2 women.
Yeah.
And so I'm just going to take all men.
All right.
Based purely off of, I'm still impressed from Abu Dhabi. I'm going to take Nikolai Dam.
Yeah. And
endurance running, if that matters this weekend, who's going to do it better than him that's on the board?
Yeah, I mean, Nikolai Dam's never a bad bet. Like, he's always there. He's been there for years, and he's just so solid.
I believe he ran Trifecta Worlds
2 years ago.
Last year or 2 years ago, and I thought he finished about 5th. I'm gonna have to. I'll look it up if you want to just talk about him for a sec.
Just that, I mean, what he running up the way he did in Abu Dhabi showed some grit and staying power that maybe we'd apply to some of the other Europeans. Some people had this thought of him that he was more of a road runner or just a clean runner, and he's not. If he ever was, he's not anymore. He is an all-around OCR monster now, and I think he can prove it this weekend. I mean, not that he has to. He's had a lot of really good results in the past. I think every time he races in the past probably 16 months, I thought, wow, he just did better than I thought he was going to.
Yeah, and he did Morzine Trifecta World Championship also, right?
And he's a guy that
Morzine Ultra.
Yeah.
He's a guy that I think no matter what happens,
either.
he's gonna be solid on the obstacles too. They're not gonna trip him up. He's just too savvy. He's too much of a veteran.
Yeah. I can't pull it up right now because I've got the screen up. But yeah, he's just always impressed. You have 3rd place at a world championship within the past calendar year, and you're the 5th guy off the field when not everybody from that world championship is here. That's a good pick.
Yeah. All right. I got back-to-back. So I'm going to go with Jean Thibault.
Thibault Jean.
Sorry. Well, I went backwards on it. I got the list backwards now. But yeah, Thibault Jean. I'm trying to remember why I had him written down on 5th. I had to do quick homework. I had him written down at this spot, so I was actually glad to get him. And I'm glad that Bracken took Nikolai Dam because he made the decision easier for me.
Yeah.
Because that was the 2 I was bouncing forth. And then Pavel Hrdina. Again,
Pavel, a great choice.
He's just, he's solid. You can't go wrong with it. He's one of those guys. Again, he's always in the mix. He's going to get in it, and he's going to be there in the end. So he's a nice, safe pick.
Yeah, I mean, Pavel got 2nd in the 3K, and last year at World Championship, passing VJ with 2 obstacles to go. So he is not afraid to, get up there with the best. And he was 8th place in the Beast last year at Trifecta World. So he's got experience on this. But there was like a big cluster of people within a minute or two. And, at the end of the race, a 3-day weekend, I think he may have won the Super one year, maybe even last year. Let's see. He got 3rd in the Super last year. He was about 30 seconds behind Rylan and about a minute behind Gregory, but he beat Atkins. So, yeah.
For my 5th pick, I'm happy to have him. Not bad at all.
All right. Continuing on. I think people are sleeping on this man.
You can't.
What do you mean I can't?
We're doing 3 men, 3 women.
Then I'm glad I didn't say another word. All right. Federica De Coria.
Federica.
I don't even know.
It might be Decaria, but
Decaria.
Yeah. I think she's like UK born but married Italian. I forget she messaged me once on it for clarification, but it's definitely Federica. There's no Frederica.
That was said one time.
I know, and Matt holds that against us. It's just
Man's never got someone's name right in his life.
I know. Yeah. He confused the Kempson brothers for what, like 3-4 years?
Forever.
Come on. Sad, Matt. Yeah, good pick with Federica, honestly. She's got so many podiums up in the UK.
She can OCR, and there's going to be a lot of OCR in this trifecta.
She can OCR.
That is a solid statement right there.
I mean, there's some runners. There's some mountain runners. There are some people that are better on foot than they are on obstacles, and she can OCR. Mm-hmm. She can do it all.
Carry a chain.
Yep. All right. I've got one of each gender left before the wild card. I don't remember where she finished, but she was pretty successful in Alula, maybe like 8th or 9th. Sabrina D'Alio. Yeah,
she was 9th. That was who I wanted on the next one.
Yeah. Hey, Bracken, this is what happens. Remember when you win Wheel of Names, you get like a little bit of an advantage. So, yeah. But yeah, I mean, clearly that's an 8-hour event. She's got great endurance. I remember considering picking her, but I think you ended up picking her for Lula. But she had a pretty solid ultra background. Not too much Spartan experience. I think she only had a couple races when I just did a quick look up of her. But regardless, it's a 3-day event. If you can last a while and not fall apart, you're going to do well. And then my next pick, I've got pick of the litter right here. This is good, but Angel Quintero is traveling from Mexico for a race like this. I can't leave him out there.
That's what I was just going to take.
No, you can't, because you need another woman.
That's who I was about to announce when I said I think people are sleeping on this man.
Oh, for sure. Angel, his ability on like these dry roll and hit, like he's so aggressive. He's been doing this sport since like 2013 World Championship. He, finished 6th through 10th a couple of times, and he's done really well at North America Championships on this dry runnable terrain. I think it's right up his alley.
You just have my whole team. So I'm going to take, bear with me, Elzbieta Kubasikova.
I love it. Tell me about her.
Unless there's 2 of her. She has a World Athletics page.
Oh,
nice.
High level runner compared to most of what we'd find in this sport.
Okay.
See, that's legit research right there.
She most of the articles, including Spartan on her, are in another language, so you have to rely on Google Translate. And so she is undebatably a podium level Spartan racer, but she is semi-debatably a high level track athlete as well. Okay. So Jack's going to confirm or deny this for me. But either way, whether I can pronounce her name or not, if she has the running chops that my beliefs say she has.
I mean, if you said she has a World Athletics profile,
well, someone with her name does.
That is a pretty common name.
Born in 2000. Okay, it looks like, well, she was a 4x1, 4x4 athlete. It looks like 400 hurdle. It doesn't matter. Marcus Wallace was a 100 and a 4x4 guy, so doesn't mean you can't race for an hour plus.
I'm also fairly certain she's done Trifecta before. I could be wrong.
Okay, yeah, I'd have to open up the other tab, but she did do Munich earlier this year. It's looking like. Let's see how she did in that.
She did Trifecta.
Okay. Okay, she got 8th place in Munich in a same race with Clara. Clara finished in 60 minutes 9 seconds, and Elzbieta finished in 65.5. So she's like, 10% slower than a woman who just got World Championship 3rd place in Croatia. So yeah, I think definitely has a lot of potential there.
All right. So last one here, right?
Got to pick a guy and then either gender for your wild card.
All right. Well, I'm actually really, really surprised that I got a chance to draft this guy, Manuel Defoe.
Yeah.
North American 3K champion, perennial 3rd place. He's likely to come 3rd place here. That's just what he does.
Yeah.
And another guy representing the old guys. So I'm good with that. Manuel has been consistent for the past couple of years, and I think he's another pick that is guaranteed to just be a safe pick. Is he going to win? Probably not, but he could be in the mix for podium.
Yeah. He's definitely, no matter who shows up, he's always going to get top 10, even at World Champs over the past few years. Like, just as consistent as anyone, and he doesn't have to fly to the West Coast again. It's just a relatively quick flight from Switzerland.
Yeah, it'd be an easy trip for him. So yeah, Manuel Defoe is my last pick. Fantastic. And then I get first wild card.
Mm-hmm. And one other thing, you can pick like Chris Brown. Like, they don't have to be on the board.
Well, I know. I was thinking of taking KBB just to screw Bracken over there, because I know
it would only help me, because then I'd have to pick someone that might run.
Yeah.
Well, that's where I'm torn. Is I'm trying to think: do I pick someone who probably isn't going to be there and may show up, or do I pick another one? Yeah, I'm gonna go with Esther. I'm gonna take Esther just in case she somehow shows up. Yep. Why not? Stranger things have happened. I think maybe Jack just made this list and left her off it so that he could take her as a wild card as a secret ploy.
You see this? You have Jamie and then Jessica. Janka would be right between there, but no hidden lines, nothing. Like, I'm just making sure.
Yeah,
I was at Janka Petrova or Janka Popova you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a true wild card. She's likely not going to be there, but if she is, that's the one that can win.
Yeah, you've got 4 basically of the top 5 women. Well, 4 of the top 6 or 7.
Well, I'm once again going to leave Jack with great options because
there are many great
options. Gregor Shekla.
Yeah, I know. I looked at those.
Saniga. So I'm just going to go with Manon Joffrey, I believe. She was top 20, maybe 18th at Alula.
Okay.
And I don't know enough about the other women on this. If I have a weakness right now, it is my women's roster.
Should have left me with Susanna, and then you could have had your back-to-backs likely. Look at this butterfly effect. So, yeah, I honestly don't have a whole lot of background off the top of my head. I could pull up the other sheet, but I don't have.
I think she was 18th at Alula.
18th. Okay. Yeah. I mean, the guys that are left on this board are. It's crazy that they are. This would be
doing
worth
it for Jack.
10 rounds.
Yeah.
I'm not going to take who you think I'm going to take. I'm taking a guy from down under who ended up beating VJ last year in Fiji and has just been running up there with Liam McKenzie, beating him and some of the other top guys in Australia for past couple of years. Dylan Party. I've got high hopes for this guy.
I like it.
There you go.
Kind of a wild card pick. You guys heard of him before?
No, nope.
I have not.
Other than when you talked about him beating VJ.
Yeah, because he had 13 or 14 podiums last year. He's just a younger guy, right around that 26 or so, plus or minus a year age. I'm just from talking with Liam, he's like Dylan is beat. So I don't know. I like his odds, and he races a bunch of multi-race weekends down in Australia. He's traveled to Europe before to race, and I think you don't make this trip accidentally from Australia. He feels like he's fit, so worth a flyer. And I think that his countryman Mitch Green is going to have a really good race also from Australia. So just throwing that out there ahead of time.
I thought you were going to take Labros.
That was who I was debating on.
I probably, if it was one of the standard people, I would have probably gone Peter Saniga. Because he just finished top 10 at Croatia and he was like 5th at Abu Dhabi. He's always a solid racer. So I probably would have picked him over the other guys. No disrespect to Labros. All right, let's do a recap. Dave, who's your team?
All right, I got Nicole Miracle, Clara Loka-Jakova.
That was close.
Close. I would give it my best. Lisa Masaccio, Thibaut Jean, Pavel Hardina, Manuel Defoe, and Esther Hortabaliova. I'm really bad. I'm worse than Matt, but at least I acknowledge it.
Your women's team, you've got, if Esther, even if she doesn't show up, you probably have 3 of the top 5 pretty safely. You're going to earn some serious points there. You just need Thibaut and Pavel to deliver, and I think that you might have this thing wrapped up.
Yeah. Well, again, it was Bracken that made the team.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't love this. But I love my squad. Zuzana, Rylan, Luca, Nikolai. You know what you're getting, and it's going to be good. And then one of Federica, Elzbieta, or Manon is going to come through for me and round out my 5.
Your top 4 is very solid.
No doubt. Yeah, Rylan could win the thing. He could get 3rd. He could get 4th, but he's going to deliver despite the health issues. Luca, if he's not hurt, it's going to be tough to knock off the podium realistically. Zuzana's won this event, and Nikolai is so predictable. Yeah, you just need one of those 3 to come up and deliver.
And this is one of those events where there's so many talented men left that if people end up being sick or not declaring our free agent pool, the waiver wire is pretty stacked. Someone's going to get someone good off that.
Yeah, definitely. Yep. And my team, Gregory Basilico, Richard Heineck, Jessica Velasco Ruiz, Andrea Borquez, Sabrina Diallo, Angel Quintero, and Dylan Party. Happy with them. I'm glad that I got those back-to-back women in round 3 and 4. Kind of screwed up Bracken's draft. I think I did that a few times for you, actually. But
yeah, you guys are great.
Yeah. Well, this is going to be a
It's
good
one of those ones this could be anybody's thing. I don't see anyone lopsided here.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's going to be a solid race weekend. Realistically, I imagine they're going to have coverage at worst on YouTube. That's what they've done in the past couple of years. They always have good rabbits out there.
No announcements yet.
I didn't look deep enough into it. But Tomas Blanc always ends up having some very capable rabbits out there. Who knows? Maybe Jeremy Gaucher, who rabbited down in Croatia, maybe he'll come, or get some local people there. But should be good production.
I'm looking right now to see if Spartan said anything.
Probably not.
Well, yeah, unless it's them specifically hosting it, they don't usually. I think memory serves, like they usually put on a good show.
Yeah. Dave, predictions. Let's hear your podium
for this one.
In order, not 1, 2, 3, but like I want to know actual order.
All right. Well, Basilko, Heineck, and Shadag, I think will be your podium.
1, 2, 3.
Yeah. And then for the women, it's Nicole, Susanna, and you know what? Yeah, Clara.
I have the same exact men, and I think it's going to be Nicole, Susanna, and Andrea.
Ooh.
Well, my days of picking are far in my rear view, but I will say my prediction is that we have a male and female on the podium that is an upset. And they will be European. Yes.
And they will be European. Yep. We'll see. I'm pumped. I love watching this weekend. A lot of late night racing for me. That's good as opposed to this morning crap. So
my question, Jack, is have you heard anything from Sergey?
He and Lisa were not able to get visas to get to Croatia. They've raced here before.
Yes, and they've done well. And they are fresh because they didn't race. I wonder if they get something in time if they show up.
I did this
wild card.
Yeah, I got the start list like
if so dibs
last night at midnight. So let's see if anybody new showed up, because if they're on this list, that sucks. We didn't get a chance to pick them, but I am not seeing any new update on them. No, but they would be game changers in this.
Yeah.
Get Elisa in there, she could win the thing.
Well, so could Sergey on a good day.
Yeah.
A good weekend.
Yeah. Seriously. Yeah, we'll see. It's gonna be a good time, and I guess we'll do a recap next week, World's Toughest Mudder, and then back to High Rocks for a couple weeks.
Is World's Toughest Mudder completely different in what you would call southern Florida this year? Is it finally the year where nobody freezes?
Should be.
I think you could be in a really warm place, but water gets cold once it gets dark. Even if it's like pretty warm, I don't know. I think that your body temperatures in the high 90s, that water temperature, even if it's in the 80s, you get in and out of that over and over and over again. Your core temperature is going to cool down, and just being wet for a long time does negatively affect you. So it's not going to be as brutal as some other years, like in Atlanta or especially New Jersey in the early years, but it's going to affect people.
If it gets them, it's because they're not expecting it to, and they don't take precautions.
Does it make it better or worse race having it not be in a cold environment?
Different.
Yeah. I don't know. I just miss the old, we could talk about this next time, but having all those like freebies with the carabiners and getting to skip obstacles, it just leads to too many people getting too many miles that you can't really compare old versus new at that point. Like people are getting 10 extra miles than they probably deserve because of being able to skip stuff that's time consuming and penalty loops. So I don't know. I miss the old days for the comparability for miles.
2017 was the peak in my mind.
In the desert?
Yeah, when Atkins ran 110.
Yeah.
And Rhea came on the scene and just
away. That was the year.
That was the peak. That was amazing. The penalty loops were massive. The obstacles were difficult. The course was great. That was the peak. I hope, like you, they get back to that. I'd love for that to happen.
Yeah.
I don't have any issue criticizing Spartan because I've been there almost as long as anyone. in that realm, seen some behind the scenes stuff. I don't mind criticizing Hyrox to an extent because I was at the first one in the US and I've seen it kind of go. I don't think I have a great position to stand on with World's Toughest to ever criticize anything because I'll be the first to admit it's not really my scene. I love it. I love watching it, but I haven't experienced all that it has to offer. And so I don't typically criticize them. But my take is that we don't need hypothermia to make the race exciting. I don't think cold and wet is needed. I don't think it's the reason World's Toughest is special or great. And so I think without that, it's going to be fine. I know that there are people that bank on that for shaking up the race, and that's fine. Again, it's not my scene as much. I don't get to critique. But I think it'll be fine without it.
Yeah.
Have you done enough? People act sometimes. Sorry, Jack. People act sometimes like, and I'm not taking a shot at you, Jack, but like with the carabiners and the bypass, and if it's warm that year, like it takes all the challenge out of it. Still a 24-hour obstacle race. There is still plenty challenge in that alone. And when people all pop over 100 and they're like, see, it just proves it's easy. Like, no, it proves that they're incredible monsters. There's nothing easy about what they did. It was just maybe less miserable weather-wise than other years.
No, I agree. Like it is 24 hours of continuous upper body and lower body movement. Like it's insane to be able to, the number of people who are actually productive in like the final 4 or 5 hours of that race is very low at that point. It is an unbelievable achievement. I just think that if you're looking at like, oh, this year had 7 people with 100 miles, it was the deepest ever. It's like, well, you had some, extenuating circumstances that led to that maybe you can't compare apples to apples. That's what I'm getting at.
And you're right. Mileage, you cannot compare year to year. It just,
it's like my time is faster this year versus that year in a sprint. It's like, well, was the course the exact same? You can't really compare.
Right.
Yeah. Like I said, it's like comparing Hyrox courses. They're just not the same. But I think with Jack, when he talks about the carabiners, the thing that I always had the issue with those was not that it made it easier or that or this or that. It was that it was random and kind of took away from the competitive balance in my mind.
I'll agree with that.
You could have somebody up front who all of a sudden randomly gets handed a bunch of carabiners to skip obstacles for whatever reason, dancing in a circle. I don't know. And then the next person doesn't. It just, that took away from the competitiveness and the excitement of that field for me. That's the part I hope that.
Or you could be like, if you have this color bib, you're not allowed to do that. So if you want to encourage that because most of the people are not trying to run 100 miles. They're trying to see what they can do in 24 hours. And that, if you're there for prize money and like in the competitive heat itself, then don't give that as an option. But the rest of the field, I'm fine with that. It's a fun event. It's a big. It's all about the party and like the atmosphere for the whole weekend.
Yeah, the non-competitive field, absolutely make it world's funnest mudder. Go for it.
Yeah. Bracken, have you ever run a Tough Mudder?
Tough Mudders, yes.
Okay,
but only standard course. I've never done a 6, an 8, a 12.
Okay, yeah, I did one of the toughest. 2 TMX, or I guess 3 TMXs. Dave, you were in Florida, right? For that TMX?
I did Florida TMX, and I did a WTM as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and I've done either 2 or 3 Tough Mudders.
I did one in Austin in 2012 when I was in grad school. I was like, oh my God, I'm spending so much money that I don't have, but I really want to try this thing called OCR because like I won some local mud run and I'm like, I could totally dominate this stuff. And then I'm like, all right, $150, here we go. And then I was never as sore as that in my entire life. Like it was absolutely destroyed me, but I got hooked on OCR after that.
It's the closest I ever came to drowning was at a Tough Mudder. That was back in the Hobie Call weight vest training craze.
You wore a weight vest.
You forgot to take it off for the swim.
Yeah.
I wore a weight vest for the race as training for Killington because it was a flatter race and I wanted to make the physical demands of the hills more. And there was so much water on course.
Oh, man.
The swims were really challenging when you had to go under buoys. It was harder to get back up, but then jumping off, it wasn't Everest, but it was their version of whatever it was. It was like a 15-foot platform down into the water. I felt like I was never getting back up to the surface with my vest on. And it was a really dumb idea. And then it only made the shock worse at the end, having metal on me. So it was a bad decision and I regretted it greatly.
Yeah. Is this on the TRP training plan?
No, we don't have that.
You
don't have that one on there.
Okay.
I was truly terrified at one point that I wouldn't surface.
Yeah.
I'm just a little surprised it didn't occur to you beforehand that was a bad idea.
Yeah, I didn't really think about it.
Yeah.
And I had done some swimming with it on just to try to do compromise swimming the way I'd feel it in Killington. And it was hard, but okay. But I had never plunged down from something into water with a race gasping going on. And I didn't know the Tough Mudder obstacles yet. That one wasn't at the first Tough Mudder I did. There wasn't any water on my first Tough Mudder course.
Surprise.
So as I was climbing up, I thought, well, I can't take it off now. I'll look weak. And that would have been better than panicking.
So in today's modern hybrid world, would TMX be a huge success now?
I think you would.
So.
I think you'd have people who don't like. You wouldn't have the same leaders as you would in High Rocks. Like a lot of them would do well, but I think there are some CrossFitters who are like decent runners, but not quick enough to do well in High Rocks, where they just annihilate. Because we saw it was like CrossFit Games athletes won like 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They just dominated the leaderboard except for Hunter. I think would see something pretty similar.
And we did have legit obstacles on it too. It wasn't just like a set of monkey bars and whatnot. It was good obstacles.
But so it was a lot of how good are you at 110-pound sandbag thrusters or whatever, like that most athletes in the OCR space had never touched before. So that kind of stuff got you.
This is one where I'd critique it more if I were there. I never understood what the purpose of TMX was.
It was just fun.
Right. And that seems to be the takeaway. It was a crazy overall challenge. It was awesome. Like you were the best at TMX if you did well.
Yeah.
Yep. That's a fair assessment.
Combining obstacles with fitness.
Maybe you were the strongest OCR racer. I don't know.
Yeah, except the leaderboard was full of people who'd be terrible at OCR.
Yeah.
And people who would be terrible at CrossFit.
Yeah.
So it was
Lauren Weeks was 4th place there.
I didn't say entirely comprised of.
Oh, you said full of, but
full of, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So like for example,
Brenna Coffin's pretty good at both.
She is. Hunter's very good at both. Benny Gift would not do very well at CrossFit.
No.
That's fair.
Matt Kempson would not do very well at CrossFit. The CrossFitters are generally terrible at endurance sports. So it's just a weird combination of everything, but it mixed together to form something that everyone, other than the people who tore their Achilles there, everyone loved.
Yeah. Spectacle. Memorable.
That was not the best choice of obstacles, that one.
Yeah.
That was like,
and yet, is it any different from like Dragon's Back? Like, no, I didn't think it was that different from a lot of things we've seen. It just was a weird chemistry experiment where it combined to form something that was really, really dangerous somehow.
Yeah. Twice is a trend. That's the thing. It's like if you brought more than 40 athletes or however many were there, would this have just been happening all weekend with just open heaters? Would they have just been tearing their Achilles left and right, jumping on this wall? I don't know. I feel like probably not, but it was a bummer that did happen. Yep. All right. Anything else you want to talk about, Dave?
I don't know. Did you guys want to talk about the High Rocks thing or no? Or
let's address it.
All right.
Yeah. Lead it off.
All right. That's me. Or Bracken, you want to do it? Or do you want me?
I'll lead it off.
Take her.
We had our first, as far as I understand it, incident of violence against a High Rocks judge this past weekend. Has anyone ever made contact with a judge before that we've been made aware of?
No, not as I've understood it. No.
A strike and a knockdown shove?
Yeah,
is that accurate?
Yeah. I think you get 2 points for that one, don't you?
A slap and a shove to the ground. So that, I mean, if it's true, it's true that it happened. If it's true that it happened the way it seems to have, I haven't seen footage yet. If it's at all true, that is a lifetime ban.
That needs to be like a community. Hey, I know we're DECA, you're High Rocks. Like, we're not allowing you here either. We're not going to allow you as far. You might like physical activities. Guess what? You can't do it anymore because you're a jerk.
So that was a question that I actually brought up yesterday. Was that should other venues or other entities honor if this gentleman gets a lifetime ban, should the other entities honor it? And it was a bit of a mixed reaction as to whether it should be done or not. But yeah, I think
all events rely on volunteer,
Mm-hmm.
Judging and stuff. Like, I don't know. I'm on board with, it's like a no-fly list. Like, sorry, you screwed up.
And it's not a mistake.
No. The second time also, right?
That's not a mistake.
Right? Like, oh, I made a mistake. I reacted. No, no one reacts that way. When that happens, that you had to intentionally do it, and then you follow it up with a shove.
Yeah.
It's inexcusable, and you can go on living your life and everything, but you can't come and do events anymore that have workers and volunteers that you're not to be trusted. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
No, it's just sad that it actually comes to this. And so here's a question. Did what happened with Michael Sandbach and nothing being penalized there, does that open the door to this? Was that like a start for this, where you saw Michael Sandbach verbally abuse a judge at Worlds and nothing come of it? Does that kind of lead into this, or completely unrelated and would have happened anyway?
I have to think it's unrelated.
It's physical, like physical versus verbal. I know that you have arguments on both sides of it, but this is like undeniable what happened here from what it sounds like. We don't have all the details. We're just kind of speculating on some of what happened, but I think this is another level at this point. You can get mad. You're like, why is that? I swear I did that. And you're just yelling at them back and forth, and you have race brain at that moment, but you're confused. You didn't cross a line fully, but that's still a lower level offense than, in this case, actually striking an official.
But his, I don't think is excusable either, because we are High Rocks is not a sport of intense reactions. There's no bang bang plays. There's no physical confrontations. There's nothing that, like, your energy and your adrenaline and things have been spiked up in a half a second right as someone gets in your face. That doesn't occur here. It is a slow drip, 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 painful death, which means that your reactions are more measured. There's no reason to fly off the handle, because there's no excuse for it, because you're not in a highly charged emotional situation. Like, you see sometimes wrestlers will shove an official, or fighters will shove an official, or from time to time in football or hockey, it'll happen. And it's not excusable, but it's understandable that you're in a highly charged situation that already has contact and you just react. There's no situation even remotely close to that in High Rock. So there's no excuse for it.
In most of those situations that you described, hockey, football, MMA, anything where you shove an official, you're going to pay for it.
Yeah. Minimum a 1-year ban, if not lifetime ban. You'll be fired. You'll be kicked out on the spot, fined, and as much as they can fine you. It's always bad.
Yeah, and in a world where we struggle to get volunteers and good judges to help out and all that, this is the last thing the sport needs, is for another reason for people to go, yeah, I don't want to face that kind of, and not even if you're worried about like physical violence. I don't think any judge goes in there worried about getting assaulted, but they do go in there worried about having to call bad reps on people who are very high end and very high caliber, and having to defend that position. And so this just adds to that nervousness. So it's not something that's going to help the sport at all. Not that you would think it was, but it's something that could be very damaging. And hopefully High Rocks serves justice quickly.
Yeah, this is one of those cases that I'm okay with frontier justice. Like, it is one of the rare forms of social bullying that I'm okay if it happens. Like, fill this guy's DMs with that. I'm not encouraging it, but I'm not going to be like, we should really give him a pass. No, you still have to judge. Every time that person tries to sign up for an event, I hope everyone floods that event with emails like, hey, don't let this guy in.
Yeah. And
I'm okay with that.
Dave, you are a judge. Like, obviously it didn't happen to you. I'm not going to ask you to speculate on how bad you would set the guy up, but yeah. Because actually you do have like a martial arts background, right?
Yeah.
Might not end well for that guy.
No.
Especially if he's tired and you're not. But what would you do in that circumstance? Like, had that happened as a judge?
Obviously it's just immediate DQ, security, get him out.
Yeah. You taking down his name and everything.
Like, as fun as it is to entertain the thought of, hey, let's have a little Donnybrook and put on a show. I mean, that's obviously not the way to go. It's just, you make a quick and immediate decision. You've touched an official, you're out, you're done, and we won't be seeing you again.
Yeah.
There's just certain things that are automatic, and that should be one of them. Even if not official, even if you'd done that to another racer, like same thing. Like Bracken says, this is not a contact sport. There may be the odd, jostling during the run, but still, like that kind of thing, that deliberate, I hesitate to use violence, but the deliberate attack is just, zero tolerance. You're done.
Especially during a burpee broad jump, you have to get up off the ground to do this. It wasn't even
you could have stayed down.
Anyway, but I believe police escorted him out.
I heard security took him out, and I don't know all the laws over there, but I assume some kind of assault charges could be filed.
Bad day at the office, man.
I'm not usually someone that presses for that kind of thing, but I think it's a good precedent to set.
Yeah, you had someone come in and volunteer their time to make sure an event is going well, and you took it out on them. It's like, that's unacceptable behavior.
Now, you asked me there too, if I was a judge in that situation, and after the event or after he's been removed, he reaches out to me, he apologizes, he says, I lost my head, I'm an idiot, that was stupid. I would not go forward with the press charge thing. I would still stick with the ban.
Lifetime ban, yeah. It's like, okay, well, you can't race again. Like, thanks for
we're good.
Yeah,
but you're not welcome here.
Yeah, we're good, but you're gone.
You're not good.
Yeah.
I respect that.
That's
craziness, though. Absolutely crazy.
Yeah, put that on your things not to do in your first High Rocks.
When we've seen this,
or any High Rocks.
I had a few athletes race Toronto, and one of the responses was that the judges were all over their burpee broad jumps, all over them. People were told that their foot has to make contact with the back of their hand on burpee broad jumps. And you know what ended up happening? After the second one, they were just like, whatever, this is just the standard for today. I need to get through these as quick as possible and move on and make up for it later. And it sucks for your race that it happens. And that's exactly how you handle it.
Yeah.
You run under protest. You can deny theirs. You can say, I'm not doing that. That's not what it's called. I'm going to keep doing it my way, and I'm going to run under protest. Or you can follow their rules and complain afterwards. But whatever his goal was, nothing was accomplished other than like his time got a lot worse. And now
I'm mad about it, and I'm slower. Like, just do it right.
Yeah, and you're talking like a 5-meter penalty. This was like that. It would have cost him maybe like 10 seconds, like 15 seconds at the most.
Yeah, a couple jumps, basically.
This cost him all the rest of his fitness competitions.
Yeah. Dave, you were telling me after our last episode about some queue delays picking up equipment at High Rocks Toronto. When we were kind of going over like, hey, there are some issues. You want to go over that? Because I forgot to.
Yeah. I mean, I guess we should talk about that. So what it was in the wall ball area, they actually had a holding corral for overflow. So essentially, if you got to the wall ball area and there was no judges available or no spaces, they put you off into a little side area where you would then have your time adjusted to represent the time you spent there. And this very much bothered me. And especially because I did have to participate in said thing, which bothered me even more. I think it is a sign of overselling the race, and that at this point, High Rocks has got to the point where they're selling so many, they're doing so great, and I'm really glad they are. But I think maybe they've overestimated the amount of people that they can get through in one day, and maybe they need to trim that back a bit. Either that, or less people in the heats, more distance between the waves, more time between the waves, or even an adjustment of how you send people out, where it's much more thought put into who is in each wave. So you have faster followed by slower as the day goes on.
How many people were in that corral at one time that you saw?
I would say at one time, probably the most 8.
Okay.
We just had this question.
It did happen to some elites as well.
Really?
I can confirm one for sure.
Last episode, the question was posed, is it potentially not a good thing that they're growing so fast?
Yeah, I listened to that.
No, not at all. There's been no issue with it, as long as the run course is getting a little crowded at times, but it's part of the atmosphere. Well, apparently that was 2 days too early, because yes, there is an issue now with growth, because they apparently do not have an equation for their flow of course, that we can start X amount every X minutes and we'll be fine. They've exceeded that, and they need to readjust, and that takes one event, and then they can be back on schedule. But if this is a trend rather than an outlier, they're in trouble.
So I am told that this has been happened in the UK before, and that they were prepared for the stopwatch. And the sheer fact to me that they had a corral prepared for this.
That's a good point.
It's not an outlier, and it's not this just happened that in Toronto. It's we planned for this. We knew
we've seen it happen before.
We've seen it happen before. The other part about the growing fast, and this was something else that got put out this week, was that at least one particular woman anyway got to the sled pull and was told to go to the next station because there was no room for her there, and then to come back after.
Skipped it completely, or went out of order?
She was told to go out of order because there was no room for her, so she would have had to wait, and then came back and then apparently received a penalty as well, which is a real kick in the teeth for that one. But that aside, the problem here that really got to me is that's a sled pull. Like in the wall balls, that's one thing. That's a long time for people to catch up to the wave in front of them and create a log jam. Sled pull is the station 3. Like that should never happen there. So
that was going to be my question. Was it only the end or was it early? So
yeah, I'm not sure the timing. I just know that, and all I can confirm is that it actually did happen. How prevalent it was, how many other people, I don't know, but apparently this woman's experience is true.
Imagine if you had a slow sled day and the overselling like that. Like you've got some real backup potential.
If you want a PR, this is the way to do it. If you can get a stopwatch on the exact amount of time you're not working, and you can just break this up into an interval session, and you can come in hot into stations coming off of a rest, this is your pathway to an Elite 15 right here. Just get the latest wave start you can get and just run people down and wait and keep a running tally.
4 minutes rest before wall balls. I'm doing those fast.
You're going unbroken.
Yeah, for sure.
Fantastic.
Sure. But it can also throw you off in the other way. Like if you're, say, someone who was running into wall balls, you're all psychologically prepared, you're ready to go. And then judge pulls you off to the side for 5 seconds, 10 seconds, and just screws with you mentally because you're like, I'm confused. I don't know what's going on. I wasn't prepared for this. I didn't know this was even a thing. And now you're off to your wall balls and you're like, did I just lose time there? Did I not? It could actually adverse you negatively.
Hard to stay locked in. You might start to tie up a little bit.
Yeah.
You can't stay moving anymore. Appropriately.
Yeah. So it's just something that in no ways is a good thing.
No.
Should they dedicate a couple of lanes in like the later days or later hours of the event? It's like, hey, here's the fast lane, like so that we don't have a Lindsay taking Rich's spear incident.
They should just limit their waves.
They
do it to the pros. They only let 15 people in.
It doesn't matter if you're fast or slow. Realistically, it's like, hey, we didn't really consider enough time for you, and you have to wait. Like no one wants to wait. They're at a race, not a completion. So
if it's a time-based sport, you cannot have bottlenecks.
That would be like running a marathon, and it's like, we had this railroad crossing, but a train came, so like you guys have to stay there for like 8 minutes till this thing is done.
And that happens sometimes, and it makes national news every time.
Yeah,
that's bad.
Maybe regional news.
So there was a few issues where I think that they have grown a little too quickly, and they need to just cut back how many people they're in through, because we know they're doing well, right? They're growing great. They're selling out, obviously.
Selling on multi-day events, like 10,000 finishers of some of these.
Yeah, if you just cut back a little bit, maybe 5% or whatever, that should probably be enough to do it. And the only other way is build more room onto the zones, more judges, more apparatus. It's one or the other, because otherwise this will keep happening and it'll get worse. And what happens in that point is all of a sudden our sport that we love so much and that's doing so well is going to get a reputation where they're not concerned about the client's experience,
performance.
And then it'll be that slow downswing. So, I mean, they're on top and we want them to stay on top. And we want them to continue to grow, but they need to watch out for this kind of stuff and take it seriously.
That was our one caveat. As long as the athlete experience leaves you feeling excited, special, and catered to, you will pay the rising prices. You will do whatever they ask you to do. That right there is an example of not feeling that way.
Yeah. It's just a little kink in the armor and it can be fixed. It can be fixed and they can move on and they can continue to grow.
I mean,
it's still like Jack's template course. Boom, stamped on there. This is how many people. Every other, like a concert, a festival, a restaurant, they know what their capacity is, and you are not allowed to exceed that. As long as they know that and stick to that, they're going to be fine.
I'm a traffic engineer. I deal with flow rates all the time. It's definitely something you can calculate properly. So
yeah. Do you think, like I said, simply if they just went with like fastest waves first, slowest waves later, do you think that would roll? Like it seems like a pretty simple fix.
You don't need as big of a stagger. I know that they might give 10 minutes between waves. Maybe the early waves you give 8 minutes, and then 9 minutes as the day progresses, then 10 and 11, and that will allow more people on the course, but they're kind of finishing closer towards their expected times. I think that would be a way to go instead of just a standard 10 minutes, because you're going to have most of those elite athletes off the course well under their, before bottlenecks form. Doesn't matter what time of day you start them at, but spacing them out appropriately when you get to the slower waves is definitely something they should look into.
You're going to have the runners running at a similar speed compared to all mixed of abundance. Like you're not going to have the elite men out there running with the later waves of the mixed doubles or whatever the case may be, and there would not be near as much passing. It would flow much more better, much more easily.
Yep.
So I would think that would be a way they could keep as many people, keep making as much money, and yet get it through smoothly.
That's what every race has experienced, especially in OCR and the adjacent fields, is that they come to this impasse of, do we make the fields flow logically, or do we try to engineer eyes at the venue on the fastest race? Spartan tried it, putting their world championship wave last one year so that people would stick around and watch it, rather than no one's at the venue at 6:30 in the morning when the race goes off, or 7 a.m. High Rocks, the only logical reason they don't have pros first is because no one's there to watch them. That's the only reason. They want eyes there. They want people in the stands. But the only way to do that is to put it later in the day, and then it throws everything off. So they have to just make their decision. Are we doing flow of course or eyes on?
And we saw that when you say the flow of course and no eyes, like back in Stockholm, where there was
empty,
it was completely empty, and even not to as much of an extent, but Amsterdam looked much emptier than normal
on a Thursday.
Yep.
So yeah, you're right. You got to make that choice, and if you are going to make it so that we want eyes on it, then you have to make sure that the rest of your day is adjusted accordingly. You can still do it the rest of the way and then just throw that in the middle, clear the course, and then resume. Yep. But that will cost you money because you don't have as many people.
You could start 30 minutes earlier and 30 minutes later, and then we're not going to send anybody off for an hour before the fast people, and then you've got 30 people to watch out for. It's only going to happen 4 or 5 times a year at these big events, or maybe you could do it at the local events also.
I would think you'd only have to do that at the majors and stuff.
Yeah,
and at the majors now they're doing it the day before anyway,
and it's solved.
Right, because at the local events it doesn't matter. It'd be just like the races we've always done. Sure, okay, elite men, you're off at 7:30.
The issue, and I'm sure that they have gone through this whole process, and the issue that I think they will come to the conclusion of, if they haven't already, again, I think this is why they do this, is that when you have things switched up, the likelihood of having an outlier on the slow side drops per heat. You may have 1 or 2 people that are excessively slow per wave, but you have enough equipment to make up for that. If you go fast to slow, the further you get throughout the day, the more likelihood that the outliers of slow will be in those waves. And then the day gets further and further behind schedule, because you can't accurately predict for the majority of your wave being 10 minutes slower than we thought they were going to be. So if you sprinkle them throughout the day, it's actually better for rate of flow than if it just gets worse, because it could happen exponentially. You can't predict how far off schedule you get, and suddenly you're an hour off schedule by the end of the day, and people do not want that. So that there is a realistic reason why they might be doing this.
And Dave, didn't we see this at DECA Worlds last year with, I think there were a couple finishers in the ruck division and right before one of the elite waves? I thought that we saw that, where it was like, hold on, wait, it might have been DECA Mile or DECA Fit, where it's like, we got to wait like 5 more minutes, and then that 5 minutes hurts the 5 minutes later on, and you got to bake in some time.
So you got to end up deciding in the end which is the lesser of the evils, and which way do you go?
Which still brings back to, you can't oversell.
Yeah, I mean that's the real answer, but that's the answer that costs the company money, and that's the one they want.
Why they're in operation.
Yeah, they want to hear that one the least.
Yeah.
So,
but does that extra 1 or 2% justify the risk of ceasing your growth because people lose brand confidence?
Yeah. Would you rather have 1% less revenue, but all 5-star reviews, or vice versa?
I would definitely take the less revenue, but it's not my money.
I know,
and I'm pretty good at spending other people's money easily. So yeah.
Well, boys, we did it. We made it here through to the end. By our own standards, we complained a lot less than usual. Yeah. I complained the most. We got rid of Rich's complaining. We brought in a fairly positive Canadian. All in all, that's a success.
Yeah. Rich did a great job dodging another international OCR draft. It's fine. We'll be there.
He's going
for
to claim
recap.
it doesn't count.
Yeah.
Hey, if I do well, there's no way that counts for him.
No, absolutely not.
No, absolutely not. If I lose, go ahead. It counts. But if I do well, not a chance.
Yeah. I was like, you don't even share any name letters with him. So no, it's not happening.
I'm the only one who hasn't draft dodged this year and then tried to nullify results. So no matter what everyone's feeling, just know that I'm the only true, real OCR drafter here.
You're in last place, aren't you?
Yep. Oh,
I mean, if you want to do things right, sometimes it costs you more.
Morals are expensive.
They are. And I am not wavering on my commitment to this episode.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for hopping on, Dave. Good replacement like usual.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. Take care.
See you, boys.